Hey Roosters, and welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited Leader Spotlight. Today's video, we're going to be looking at a leader from Star Wars Unlimited trading card game second set, Shadows of the Galaxy. Disclaimer before we start, this is not a meta-analysis. The cards in today's video will not be the perfect cards with each of these leaders. It won't be competitively viable for sure. They're just cards that have synergistic capabilities or compatibilities at face value. Second of all, this is my opinion. You may disagree with it, that's completely fine. And then finally, not every card that I personally think is very synergistic or works well with these leaders will make it into today's video for various amounts of possible reasons. On to today's leader, and that will be Hondo. Right, Hondo's a command villainy unit leader, with the underworld trait. He has an ability: when you play a card using smuggle, you may exhaust this leader, and if you do, give an experience token to a unit. As an epic action, if you control 6 or more resources, you can deploy him as a leader unit, and when you do, he becomes a 3/7 underworld unit that says Raid 1, as well as a slightly different ability. When you play a card using Smuggle, you may give an experience token to a unit. The difference here being that you no longer have to exhaust him to use that ability, which means you can activate it theoretically infinite amount of times during the phase, but more likely multiple times. Bird Stowaways a 3 cost 2/3. While you have initiative, he gets +2 power. And also, you can smuggle it in for 4. The Pirate Battle Tank's a 6 cost 4/6 with Sentinel. You can smuggle it in for 7. The Enterprising Lackey is a 4 cost double command unit, 5/5. When defeated, you may defeat a friendly resource, and if you do, put this unit into play as a resource. And then you can smuggle it in from your resource row for 6 in double command. The important part here is that theoretically, you can always have this guy available to you whenever you may need him. Privateer Cruise a 2 cost 2/2, smuggle it in for 6. And when you play it using smuggle, you can give it you can give it 3 experience tokens, making it a 5/5. And with Hondo's ability, you can even make it a 6/6 if you so choose. The Wee Quay Private Gang is a 4 cost 3/3 ambush unit that says you can smuggle it in for 5. Commission's a 1 cost event that says you can search the top 10 cards of your deck for a bounty hunter, item, or transport card, reveal it, draw it. And you can smuggle it in for 3. Now, the ability to search your top 10 for any of these things can be very important. It really just depends on what type of deck you're playing. This card might not end up being that useful, but always remember, smuggling in for 3, you get its effect, and you also get an experience token. Timely Intervention is a much better option in general, and for Hondo specifically. It's a 1 cost, play a unit from your hand, give it ambush for the phase, and you can smuggle it in for 2. Price on your head is a 2 cost upgrade. It's a bounty upgrade. You can attach it to your opponent's unit, and the bounty says put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Obviously, that top card of your deck could have a smuggle ability on it, and you can gain access to that smuggle ability. For Vigilance, we have Lam Pike, 4 cost, 4/6. On attack, you may give an experience token to an enemy unit, and if you do, give an experience token to a friendly unit. You can also smuggle it in for 5. First Light is one of the biggest cards in the game in terms of size, cost, power that has the smuggle keyword. You can spend full. You can play it for 7, and it's a 4/7 with grit, and each of your other friendly non-leader units gain grit, and this can end up being the way that you can get into a grit deck with Hondo, because the thing about Hondo is that his deck is determined by whatever smuggle cards you end up playing, and so you can still end up playing a grit deck with him. You can still end up playing a variety of other decks as long as you have smuggle cards that can match them, and this is one of those smuggle cards. Then you can also smuggle in for 7, but you also have to deal 4 damage to a friendly unit, which in a grit deck could end up being a positive just as much as it is a negative. Sugi's a 4 cost double vigilance unit that says 4/6. While an enemy unit is upgraded, this unit gains Sentinel, but then also can smuggle her in for 6, and only for 6 single vigilance. So either you pay 6 to play from your hand, or you can play 6 to play from your smuggle zone. Vigilant Pursuit Craft is a 5 cost, a 3/5 Sentinel unit that says smuggle in for 7. Covert Strength is a 1 cost tactic event that says heal 2 damage from a unit and give an experience token to it. You can also smuggle it into play for 3. Now this is not a vigilance card, but you can smuggle in for 5 vigilance. It's a 4 cost normally cunning card to buy Beckett, 4 power, 5 HP. When you play a non-unit card, you may exhaust a unit that costs the same or less as the card you played. You can only use this ability once each round. On to aggression, reckless gunslingers, a 1 cost 2/1 when played, deal 1 damage to each base. You'd also smuggle it in for 3. Desperate Attack's a 1 cost event tactic that says attack with a damaged unit. It gives +2 power for this attack. Now, if you end up going a sort of direction in which you if you end up sort of getting damage on your own units, you can then swing in for extra damage. The important part is that experience tokens gives you more damage and more health, which means your units will stay around a little bit longer as well as deal a bit more damage. A Hotshot DL-44 Blaster is the 1 cost attached to a non-vehicle unit, smuggle in for 3 for cunning, but then also when you play it, use smuggle, you can attack with the attached unit, and it gives you +2 power by itself, by the upgrade stat boosts. The important thing is this card is probably better off being played if you're playing with cunning along with Hondo, but you can still play it if you're playing aggression Hondo. You just will be able to. You just have to pay 5 to smuggle into play, which is a little too expensive. Arm to the Teeth is a 2 cost upgrade. It says attach unit gains on attack, give another friendly unit +2 power for the phase. Also smuggle in for 4, and it gives +2 power to the attached unit. On to Cunning, we have Bazine Nettle. She's a 2 cost 1/3. When played, look at an opponent's hand. You may discard one of those cards, and if you do, that player draws a card. You can also smuggle in for 4. Her in for 4. DJ is a 3 cost 3/3 underworld unit. It says smuggle in for 7 and double cunning. When played, you smuggle, take control of an enemy resource. When this unit leaves play, that resource's owner takes control of it. Smuggler Starfighter is 3 cost 2/2. When played, if you control another underworld unit, give an enemy unit -3 power for this phase. You can also smuggle it in for 4. There's Tobias Beckhead again. You already know what he does, but again, it might be a better choice to play him in your Vigilance Hondo, but you can also play him in Cunning Hondo as well. McClunky is a 1 cost Underworld trick. Return a friendly non-leader Underworld unit to its owner's hand. If you do, deal 3 damage to a unit. If you haven't noticed, a lot of Underworld units, a lot of Smuggle units are Underworld units. But also, if you pick up an Underworld unit, you can then put it into your resource roll the next turn and smuggle it back into play. So it can help you in that sense as well. Jetpack's a 2 cost attached to a vehicle unit. When played, give a shield token to the attached unit. Sort of regroup phase to feed that token. You smuggle in for 4 and also gives +2 power to the attached unit. Then here we have the Hotshot DL-44 Blaster. Again, you know what it does, but it may be better off playing it in Cunning because even though you don't have Vigilant or Aggression, rather, you can play 3 to put into play normally, or you can pay 3 to smuggle it if you're playing with a Cunning base. Whereas you're playing in an Aggression deck, you can pay 1 to play it normally, or 5 to smuggle it in to play. And we don't really have any vigilance cards to talk about with Hondo, but this is the most important thing I need to say before we end off today's video, and that is we take a look at Tech. He's a 3 cost heroism unit that says 2/5. Each friendly resource gained smuggle. The gained smuggle cost is that card's cost +2 and its aspect icons. You can also smuggle him in for 4 heroism. The reason I say this is because he may be, although he's not a villainy card, he may be one of the most important cards you may want to look at when playing Hondo, because he turns every card in your deck into a smuggle card. You can even smuggle him into play, and that means that you can activate your ability really well. With Hondo's leader unit size, you can pay, if you have this guy in field, and you have a bunch of cards that cost zeros, they cost ones, and they're really cheap to smuggle into play. You can easily smuggle in multiple cards in for 2 cost, for 3 cost, and so on and so forth to get them into play and get experience tokens on your units. And that's all I'm going to have to really say, but it's also important because we're talking about Tech and the fact that he is a heroism unit. There are a lot of good cards that are smuggled in as heroism units, and maybe you may be interested in playing the extra 2 cost to get them into play. Maybe not, but maybe you would be, depending on how much you really want them. But that's going to be it for Hondo. Now, what is there to say about Hondo? He sort of has a very straightforward plan in the sense that you want to be playing smuggle cards, but you really look at all the smuggle cards in the game, which there isn't a ton. you realize that that is a lot more wide open in terms of deck building than it initially seems. Along with playing smuggle cards, you're going to have to pick a secondary game plan to go about, because just playing smuggle cards all by themselves is not going to get you to the finish line. But that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hope you guys come back for more Star Wars Unlimited Leader Spotlights in the future. Well, that's going to be all for now, but if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead and watch some of our other videos that we've made on this channel. Also, give this video a like if you thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. And I hope to see you guys back at the Roost.